You are free. That is the problem. Your time is available. Your opinions are shared openly. Your energy goes to whoever asks for it. You show up. You help. You are always there, and you are being treated accordingly, not with respect, with assumption. The assumption that you will always be there, that nothing about you costs anything, that reaching you requires no effort whatsoever. Machiavelli had a name for men like that. He called it the cost of accessibility, not in those words, but the principle is everywhere in the prince. The prince who receives everyone is treated like anyone. The advisor who speaks on every matter is heard on none. The general who marches his forces without rest signals to every enemy that his forces have no limit and no value. Here is the mechanism. Value is not intrinsic. Value is perceived, and perception is governed by scarcity. What is everywhere costs nothing. What is rare costs everything. That is not a philosophy. It is a law. You have been making yourself free in 7 specific ways. Each one is draining something from you that you cannot see until it is gone. There are 7 of them. Point 5 is the one most men never consider. It is the quietest law on this list, and once you understand it, it will change every room you walk into, every relationship you are in, and every negotiation you will ever face. Stay with me. When you are always available, your time signals 0 value. This is not about being busy. It is about what your availability communicates before you say a single word. Picture to men. One answers messages within minutes. He rearranges his schedule for last-minute requests. He is never too occupied to help. The other takes his time. His responses come when he decides. His schedule does not move easily. Getting an hour with him requires planning. Which man is assumed to be more important? Not the one who is always there. The market does not ask why something is scarce. It simply prices scarcity higher. Human psychology operates the same way. The man who is always reachable is priced as a man with nothing more important going on. Machiavelli wrote that men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. What they see first is not your character. It is your availability, and that becomes your price before you open your mouth. You do not need to pretend to be busy. You need to treat your time as if it actually has value. Because right now, you are teaching everyone around you exactly what your time is worth by how instantly you give it. The man who makes his time hard to reach teaches people to value it before they have it. If your time costs nothing, it is worth nothing. That is point 1. But the cost of your time is only the beginning. What you do with your voice is its own problem. The man who shares his view on everything, every conversation, every topic, trains the people around him to stop listening, not because his views are wrong, because they are always there. You know this man. He always has a comment, always has a take, never allows silence without filling it with his perspective. After a while, you stop registering what he says, not because he is wrong, because there is no scarcity in his voice. Contrast that with the man who speaks rarely. When he does, the room shifts, not because he is louder, because he has made his words worth something by rationing them. Machiavelli understood that the prince who speaks on every matter gives his enemies a complete map of his thinking. The prince who speaks selectively gives them nothing to aim at. Your opinions are a resource, and like every resource, their value is determined by how freely you distribute them. The next time you are in a room and someone says something you disagree with, try saying nothing. Observe what happens. You will find that your silence carries more weight than your argument. The man who agrees with everything is trusted with nothing. The man who speaks rarely is listened to completely. Your opinion is only as powerful as the scarcity of the moments when you give it. Stop for a moment. Think about the last time someone told you that you always have something to say. Think about whether they meant it as a compliment. Because here is what comes next, and it is going to be harder to hear than the first 2. The man who gives maximum effort to every person and every situation teaches the world that his maximum is the default. Defaults are not rewarded. They are expected. There is a craftsman who builds something extraordinary for a client who pays almost nothing. Because the work was given freely, the client receives the extraordinary thing. He uses it. He does not particularly appreciate it. Next time, he goes looking for a cheaper option. Now picture the craftsman who reveals what he can do only when the terms match what it cost him. That client does not shop around next time. Effort that is always fully extended signals that the person cannot manage his own resources, that he will give everything regardless of what is being offered in return, that his effort has no minimum price. Machiavelli was direct. The prince who gives without condition creates subjects who expect without gratitude, not because they are evil, because you taught them this arrangement was the norm. This is not about withholding your best, it is about calibration. Give what the situation earns, not more, not out of habit, not out of pride, and not out of the need to appear generous. The man who always gives everything to everyone has nothing left that is genuinely special. Reserve your best for what earns it. Everything else gets what it deserves. The man who can be moved by anyone, upset by anything, and drawn into every conflict has handed everyone around him a lever. You have met this man. He cares deeply about every slight. Every social dynamic reaches him. Every person's opinion of him sits somewhere in his mind. Active and unresolved, he is perpetually managing perception. He is exhausted, and he is completely controllable. Anyone who learns what moves him can move him. Anyone who learns what upsets him can deploy that on demand. He is not a man. He is an instrument that plays whatever tune the last person requested. Machiavelli wrote that the prince who is moved too easily by the counsel of others will be blown about by every wind. Not because counsel is wrong, because the prince without his own center becomes subject to whoever speaks last. Emotional investment is not the problem. Unlimited emotional investment, extended freely to everyone who asks for it, is the problem. Some things deserve your care. Most things do not. The man who treats every problem as his own problem has announced that he has no problems of his own important enough to protect. Be moved by what earns it. Guard your emotional interior like the asset it is. The man who can be reached through his feelings at any moment has placed his power entirely in other people's hands. Your emotions are not for public consumption. Everything so far has been about what you give away. What comes next is different. It is about something you do not even realize you are giving, and it is the one I told you about at the start. Your presence. The man who is always there stops being noticed, not because people dislike him, because their minds have registered his presence as the baseline. He is the furniture. He is the weather. He is the given. You do not think about the floor beneath you until it shifts. Here is the Machiavellian law. What retreats is pursued. What advances is avoided. What disappears creates a vacuum. Think about the last time you pulled back from something or someone. How quickly you were contacted. How suddenly you became a priority. That was not coincidence. That was the law operating exactly as it always does. The man who makes himself consistently present teaches everyone around him that his presence is guaranteed. And guaranteed things are not valued, they are assumed. Controlling your presence is not cruelty. It is strategy. The ruler who attends every gathering becomes a face in the crowd. The ruler who appears selectively commands every room he enters. This applies everywhere. In relationships, in professional settings, in social dynamics. The man who is always there trains people to expect him. The moment he is not there, something shifts. They feel his absence. They think about it. They reach out. That reaching out is the power, not because you have manipulated anyone, because you have made the truth visible. Your presence is not guaranteed, and therefore it has value. The man who is always available teaches people not to miss him. The man who freely solves every problem, answers every question, and shares every skill has become a consultant who never gets paid. And free consultants are used without being respected. People do not value advice that costs them nothing to receive. Not in money, in effort, in the acknowledgement that reaching you required something from them. When your knowledge is always available on demand, it loses the one quality that makes expertise valuable: scarcity. The surgeon with a 3-month waiting list is assumed to be more skilled than the one who sees patients the same day. Same hands, different positioning. The difference is what it costs to reach them. Stop volunteering your insight before it is asked for. Stop solving problems no one asked you to solve. Let people feel the cost of not having your perspective before you offer it. Knowledge shared freely becomes expected. Knowledge shared selectively becomes sought. Be the person people have to earn answers from. The last point ties all 6 together, and it is the simplest one on this list. The man who understands this does not need the other 6, but the man who misses it will lose every advantage the first 6 gave him. Every man teaches the world how to treat him, not through announcements, through the behavior he tolerates and the standards he enforces. The man who responds to last-minute requests teaches people. His schedule has no structure. The man who accepts careless communication teaches people that careless is the price of entry. The man who never says no teaches people that there is no floor. And the man who enforces his own standards, who says no without lengthy explanation, who does not negotiate his minimums, that man teaches the world that reaching him has a cost, and costs are respected. This is not about being difficult. It is about being priced correctly. Machiavelli was clear. Men will take whatever they are allowed to take, not out of malice. Out of nature, you cannot blame water for flowing downward. You can only raise the floor. You have been setting the price. The question is whether you set it correctly. The price you accept is the price you get every time. Go back to where this started. The man who was free, whose time cost nothing, whose presence was always available, whose opinions were always there, who gave everything to everyone, and could not understand why no one treated any of it as special. That man was not weak. He was mispriced. Machiavelli said it directly. Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. What they see is what they believe. What they believe is the price they pay. From today, set the price correctly. You are not free. You are expensive, and the world will treat you exactly as you teach it to. Drop a comment and say expensive. That is the only word that matters after this. Subscribe to Machiavelli's strategy code. New strategy every week for men who are done giving themselves away.